How are you, sir? Jimmy Khan, sir, how are you? I heard you are not feeling well.
Okay, time for Sat. Janice, could you do the short prayer, please?
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold fast to Baba's daman till the very end. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai Baba, everybody.
Jai Baba.
And welcome to our Bombay Center's Thursday evening program. At the onset, I'd like to invite our one and only Lord Meher Baba to please come and join us during the program. Not only join us, but to take over the entire proceedings and whatever is spoken through the speakers, let it all be as per his will. Today we have with us Alan Wagner. A lot of us may know him. He's a multi-talented man, wears many caps. He's not only a chef, a cordon bleu chef, also, yeah, and he's also a great actor and theater artist. And he's also into a lot of creative works. I've known Alan since past 30, 35 years, and we've had some very good times along with Erico Nadel, Heather. These are all stalwarts, if I may say, of the Mehrabad pillars. I could, but that is Baba's words again, but I'm just saying it. So, without too much of talk from me, I would like to hand over to Alan, except to ask him for one favor, that towards the end of the program, I would like him to do the prayer the way he does it at the Samadhi when he's all alone. Okay, Alan, all yours. Take over.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. I'm open to any questions anyone has about my life here at Mehrabad for Baba. I continually marvel at the fact that how skillfully he has kept me, and with what love and care he has kept me here all the last 40, what is it now, 46, 47 years. But so Sam said he was interested to hear about how I first heard of Baba. I heard of Baba in 1967 at a small college in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I had gone there it was its first year of operation. And I went there because there was a new college starting with some progressive ideas about education. And I was very interested in that. And the very first day I was there, I met the Dean of Women, who became a good friend. And I went into her office, and she had this taped up on her wall in her office. She said, "I think you might be interested in this." And this was Baba's universal message. And I read it. And I looked at it and I said, well, he's obviously perfect, but what does that mean to me? And the next 3 months Baba revealed to me what that meant to me and who he was to me. And it changed. I mean, everything in my life became directed toward him more and more and more and more in the ensuing years. So that was how I first heard of Baba's name. Then the way he kind of put his, what would I call it? Like the signet ring, he put his stamp on me, was one time about after I'd heard his, well, in the first week after I heard his name, a woman who had been a close friend of mine who was in a college in another part of Colorado sent me the Everything and the Nothing. She said, I just met this guy, Alan Cohen, went to a talk that he had given. I think you'd be interested in this. She had no idea I had heard of Baba. And about another few days later, another friend had gone out to California, and he sent me the Ancient One poster of Baba, that Christ-like looking picture of Baba. And I put that up on my wall. So Baba was entering my life, whether I liked it or not. It was like he was coming in. At that time, I was meditating every day on the word Om, because I had realized within myself that there was nothing in existence that had any intrinsic value except love. Nothing in creation, nothing in any experience was more valuable than just love. And I had felt that I wasn't in touch with that. So every day I would meditate on the word Om, and before I would begin, I would offer up a prayer to the true self, the real self, God, whatever word you wanted to put on it, saying, please help me find love. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I suddenly noticed that instead of just focusing on Om, I had spontaneously on my own changed that to Meher Baba Om without consciously making any decision. So that went on. I thought that's kind of curious. And one of the things, that Alan Cohen talked a lot about when those early years in 67, 68, those 60s, in the States, was Baba had given him orders to get the youth of America off of drugs, because the whole hip culture, of course, was experimenting with marijuana and LSD and various things with the idea of changing consciousness, which was false. And Baba made that clear in the book, God in a Pill. So when I heard of Baba, I had already done a little bit of experimenting with these things and found them empty and sort of put them behind me. But occasionally at some social event, someone would bring out some marijuana and be passing, a marijuana cigarette around. It would be very awkward to avoid it. But I didn't really like it. It didn't make any sense to me. So on one of these occasions, I was out to dinner with a couple of friends, and after dinner, they started to pass around a marijuana cigarette. And rather than make a scene, I participated. But with each time I took the cigarette and took a draw on it, I was feeling tremendous nausea, unbelievable nausea. And so at one point I thought, I really don't like doing this. I'm so uptight about it. Let me just close my eyes and try and compose myself. So I closed my eyes, and the minute I closed my eyes, Meher Baba's image burst into my mind's eye. Old, the age he would have been in 67 in September. Old, stern, like the bringer of divine law, God, the bringer of law. And he was looking at me, and I felt looking at me, and I heard a voice. He didn't open his mouth, but I heard a voice say, I will give you everything and nothing, but you must stop taking drugs. And it was the force of his pronouncement was so great, it terrified me. And I was shocked and terrified, and his countenance then softened, and he smiled, and I heard a voice again say, but don't worry, because I love you. And I opened my eyes and I said, that was more real than anything in this world that I can see with my eyes open. And I got up because I was still feeling nausea. I went and got a glass of water and took a sip, and I passed out on the floor unconscious. The people revived me who I was with. They got me into a sofa and I sat in the sofa and I passed out again. They got me up and got me into the vehicle to take me back to the dormitory where I was staying, and I passed out in the car. Then the friend who had driven me got me into my room, put me in my bed, and I passed out again. In the morning, I woke up and I looked up at the poster of Baba over my bed, and I said, well, I guess I know who you are. So that was sort of the way he got me hook, line, and sinker. From there, I went to Myrtle Beach the first time. There were several dreams in my experience over the years with Baba, which I considered, and this real true visions, where Baba revealed, it was always about him revealing himself to me. And I went to Myrtle Beach for the first time in August of '68. And while I was there, Baba sent a cable. There were only about 10 of us on the center at that time. And Baba said, had a cable came that said he sent his love to all of us who were on the center, and he had known us all before. So that was quite reassuring. And then, of course, in the fall of '68, the circular went out that Baba would give darshan in '69. And although I really didn't have much money, I was a student in college, and that I found out what the chartered flights would cost. And a friend who knew I was very interested in Baba called me and said, I will give you the money for the flight, for the chartered flight. And so I was able to get my name put on the list, and I had to make some arrangements. Fortunately, my birthday came right around the time I was going to be traveling, because I had to get from Colorado to New York to pick up the charter. So what I did was I asked all of my family members who were going to give me gifts for my birthday to give me money. So I would have the money to get a plane ticket from Denver to New York and then catch the chartered flight, and also have money to live on when I was staying in Pune. So that all worked out, and I came to India for the first time, and I was on the chartered flight, the main chartered flight was full. So there was a group of us of 30 who traveled on a separate airplane because the charter was full. And we left a day earlier, and we arrived a day earlier than the other flight. And on that first day when we arrived in Pune, the Mandali called us all to Guru Prasad from our hotels. So we went to Guru Prasad, and for the first time I met Erich and Pendu and various, most of the Mandali, many of the Mandali, excuse me. And I was instantly impressed. Erich took all of us into the little Mandali hall on the side of the big hall in Guru Prasad. And it was interesting that he immediately wanted to de-emphasize spirituality as being anything unusual. He said, from the time when we were children, my mother taught us that even when you shit and go to the toilet, it is God. He was pounding the floor. And all of us young Westerners were a little shocked at first, but it was wonderful to see his conviction and to experience that world. One fellow who was in the group, sitting in the back of the room, was weeping copiously and couldn't control his weeping. And later he said he saw Baba sitting in the chair behind Erich, in the chair that he would sit in that hall, and the whole time we were there. So that experience of being at the darshan in '69 and coming to Mehrabad for one day, going to Baba's tomb, I remember feeling overwhelmed by the atmosphere at the tomb. I felt so familiar. Everything about it was familiar. And but I never had the thought that I would ever live there. it didn't seem like that was going to happen. So, and this just didn't come to me because he was with me. Anyway, I was one of the things in that 69 darshan that was especially had an effect on me was meeting Mara. Because in our group was the first group that she decided to meet the men. And the way it was set up was the big hall in Guru Prasad had rooms off on either side. And the one side was the men's mandali side, and one side were the women. So when the men were to meet Mara, we were told to go to this door in the big hall and file through one by one. And Mara would be standing in a doorway of another room on the side. And we would just face her in the doorway, and all she would do is say Jai Baba, and all we would do is say Jai Baba. And that was it. When it came my time and I stepped through that door and looked into her eyes, I realized as I looked at her that the depth of this being was so great that I could fall into it forever. It was infinite. I would never find the end of this being. And she said Jai Baba, and I said Jai Baba, and I walked away. And then I was sort of in a dazed state for maybe 2 or 3 hours after that. And it was interesting because in the future, when I came here to live, Mara became a very big part of my life with Baba during her life, the last part of her lifetime. Let me think, what else would it? So when I left the darshan, I thought I would never see her again. I thought I would never see the mandali again. I didn't think I would ever come back to India again because when I came to Baba, we waited for an invitation from Baba to come. And the invitation came, and then he dropped the body. And I thought, there'll never be another invitation. How will I know? How will I go? So it wasn't until 1972 that when I went to the Mara Spiritual Center in Myrtle Beach that I found out people were coming on pilgrimage. And so I immediately started making arrangements to try and come in 73. And so my first pilgrimage after 69 was in 73. And I came and realized that no matter what happened in my life, I needed to make sure that I came to India and I bowed down at his tomb once in every year. That it was too important an experience to take for granted, that I had to make that effort to be here at least once every year, to have to avail myself of that opportunity. So in 73, I came again. Again, no thought of living here ever entered my mind. I came again, and it was the first time in 73 for I think 2 or 3 weeks, and it was intoxicating for me to be here. It was so phenomenal. And the atmosphere of excitement and was just perfect. After Mara died, what I realized was there was this element of charm, for me at least, that existed in creation while she was here, that Baba had put there just for her. And we all got to enjoy that during those years that she was here before she died. But when she died, that element of charm vanished, and it's never come back. The world's fine, Baba's there, it's all good, but there was just this little tweaking of the environment, tweaking of Maya to let it have like a beautiful, beautiful jewelry. But so there was that experience. Let me think. Any questions? All right, let's go to
Does anyone have any questions? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Alan, Jimmy here. How many times did you make trips to India, Mehrabad, to finally settle down at Mehrabad?
I came in 73 and I came in 74 and I came again in 75, and it was in 76 that they had started to build the Pilgrims Center at Mehrabad. And at that time I was managing a country club in the United States. So I had this experience of this hospitality experience. And Pendu and Goher both suggested that I consider coming here to manage the MPC. And I kind of didn't take it very seriously, actually. But then when I got back to the States from that pilgrimage, Erico sent me a telegram saying, if there's any possibility of you coming when the building is completed, why don't you come? And he said also, why don't you look into getting a job with James Cox to work in India and get to know India a little bit before you come there to live. So I removed myself from all the responsibilities I had there, and James Cox agreed to help me bank a certain amount of money every month that would give me a stipend, an interest that would give me a stipend to live in India at that time. And I took a job and came and lived in India starting in the end of 76, early 77. Right, and then it was at the end of that work period that I came to live at Mehrabad.
Yeah. Tell us something about Padre.
Well, Padre was one of the most refined human beings I've ever met in my life. Incredibly sophisticated, unbelievably refined, had a very, very defined aesthetic. Everyone thinks of him as this, kind of big, harsh, authoritarian kind of character. My experience with Padre was that he was this tremendously respectful of others. And he really saw anyone who came to Mehrabad as having been called by Baba, he always referred to Baba in kind of regal terms, the king, the emperor, the Lord. So he would approach anyone who came with tremendous respect. I mean, having him as be one of my mentors I felt Baba was so kind. We all did. Heather, Eric, Ted, Janet, myself. We were the first 5 to live here. And we all felt so fortunate that Baba gave Padre as one of our mentors, because he was like our Dumbledore out of Harry Potter. He was like Gandalf out of Lord of the Rings. He was the magician who helped us find our way toward our beloved. He could be very direct. I mean, if he had work to do that required you to do something, and he would be very straightforward about it. But most people don't know that, the poem I read at the Duni every month, that was about that Padre did that translation of Baba's original poem. And most people don't know that when there would be competitions among the Mandali given by Baba to write a ghazal, Gandhi would always win, but Padre would always come second. Yeah, that was that refinement of the man. How he could appreciate a wildflower, how he could appreciate the fine machining of a part of an engine. He took apart this big diesel engine that did the pumping at the original well in the front of Mehrabad, and called Eric and I to show us the various parts of it. And how he enjoyed that, he loved how precise it was. Once the first cobra I ever killed at Mehrabad, he heard about it from the servants, and he said, "Go get it." He had called me over. He had me called over to to the veranda. And he said, go get the cobra. So I brought it. He proceeded to dissect the head of the cobra with a scalpel and showing me this poison sacs and the fangs and all of this. He was just had this wonderful, wonderful love of everything. He taught me how to make aula murumba and how to make green mango sherbet. You know, these are things that most people wouldn't think of when they think of Padre as the engineer, the stern authoritarian. But he was absolutely wonderful. That isn't to say that if you got out of line, he wouldn't call you on it. There was I remember an incident in my own experience where Adamarchisi, my room was at the end of the old Dharamsala building. It had been Muhammad's room before me. It had been many different things over the years. It had been a little surgery. It had been a dining room. Anyway, right before Amartisi, he came to my room and he knocked and I said, come in, and he came in, we sat on my bed. And he said, I want you to empty out your room. I need it for a storeroom for the kitchen for Amartisi, for the caterers. And I said, couldn't they use the Savage's kitchen, Kaka? And he said, mister, empty your room and get it ready for the people to use. I said, okay, Kaka. I moved into the Savage's kitchen. So he was, you know, he had a job to do. And he was very, very pragmatic that way, but also so respectful. You know, he came to me personally to ask. He didn't just send a message or anything. He came to me, he sat with me. You know, he was tremendously respectful. He respected everything, loved nature. Got up with the sun, went to bed with the sun. No, Baba could not have given us a better mentor. Any other questions? Oh, the poem, the Duni poem that I read and the other poem I read, Audrey gave them to me and told me to read them. And
You still do now, yeah?
yeah, but what happened, there was one time in the summer when there were only like three or four of us here in the early years, I decided not to read the second poem, the True Teacher. I thought everybody's here heard it every month, you know, they're probably tired of it. I'll just read Baba's poem, which Padre did the translation of, by the way. The translation I read is Padre's translation. And so the second poem I didn't read, and Padre called me over as Duni was ending, and he said, where's that second poem? I said, well, I left it in my room, Kaka. I thought, you know, everyone's heard it. Maybe they'd be bored with it. He said, mister, I told you to read those at the Duni. Go get it and come back and read it. So I went to the room and brought it back, and then everything was fine.
Alan, let's hear a bit of Marathi in your stock now.
माझं मराठी खूप कच्चं आहे.
Doesn't matter.
And Gaunda, I'm मी लाजतं मराठी, and माझं grammar बरोबर नाही, पण मी प्रयत्न करतो थोडंसं. मग काय सांगू?
Alan, I don't know whether you remember or not. One time you were telling me about your experience in, there's a big hotel near the airport. What was the hotel name? Forgot. You went there to eat, and this guy tried to cheat you, and you started in Marathi. Remember that incident?
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, Marathi has been very useful many times, because people are shocked when they hear, and particularly because I speak like a villager. I don't speak like an educated person. And so it's been a useful tool. I mean, this isn't directly about Baba, but it's about my experience in living in India there was one year in the summer months when the wedding season was on, and there was no transportation between Nagar and Pune except the ST bus. So I was hoping, I wanted to go stay with Rustam and Saurabh for a few days. And I went to the bus station to get on a bus, and every bus going to Pune, crowd would surge toward the door of the bus. And I couldn't possibly get in. It was like, it was a battle. So I thought about what to do. And I waited for the next bus, and then the next bus arrived. I threw myself in the middle of the crowd and I said, Wantiala, Wantiala. And I started pretending to vomit. The crowd parted and I walked into the bus and I thought, how nice. And all of them got on and gave me very dirty looks.
What was that word you said?
Wanti, it means vomit.
Means what?
Vomit
Oh,
means I'm going to vomit.
okay, okay.
So it helped me get on the bus.
Brilliant figure.
Alan, coming to Mehrabad and India as a tourist is one thing, but coming and staying here, the Indian culture didn't hit you initially?
It all seemed completely natural to me. Everything was familiar. I never felt any kind of culture shock at all. Never. It all seemed just the way it should be. And I mean, I have one wonderful relationships with lots of very close friends from the village, for instance. You know, many people don't, but I do. Padre, I was the one resident that Padre would send to the village to attend various functions. So, like when they would have the yearly jatra, and he would say, go see what's going on. So otherwise he didn't let most of the residents go to the village.
Alan, this is Prashant.
Hi, Prashant.
Hi. You have, apart from staging performances on Baba's birthday, you have also done the same for Mehra's birthday.
Right.
Yeah. You have any sweet memory or anything that Mehra commented, Mehra guided, or something like that?
Well, there were a couple of plays where she was quite involved. I mean, the last play on the last time we celebrated her birthday, that play, she literally dictated word for word to Heather, the entire script. And Heather would come back, she'd say, now read it to Ellen. If there's any problem, tell me what Ellen thinks of it. So Heather would take the dictation, come back to Mehrabad, we would go through it. It was the Shiriyar, the play about Baba's father, which is a beautiful play. There's something very magical and inspiring about it. She also took a lot of interest in, we did Shakuntala once. She wanted us to do Shakuntala, the story of Shakuntala. So we did that, and she took a lot of interest. I remember I was kind of the narrator in that play, and it was at the amphitheater, and I came out, and I was during the narration, I would sometimes just sit down on the steps of the stage in the front on the apron and wait for the next scene before I would comment. And I sat down, and Mira was just across the way, and I didn't have my glasses on, and I suddenly see all this gesturing kind of going on. I can't figure out what. I look closer, and Mira calling me over to her. She said, "The next scene should be this," and I said, "It is. It's coming." So it was quite. She enjoyed the play. She took a lot of interest in them.
Actually, most of the Mandali members, even Airage. But I wanted to ask you that, I mean, not ask, but just make a comment that it was so sweet of her that despite she being Mehra, whenever she did any changes in the script, she insisted that Heather should take your concurrence on it. I think that was a sweet gesture.
Well, it just shows that how the incredible, respectful, considerate all of the Mandali demonstrated that sense of respect and consideration toward everyone really. And you know, she was, and my relation, I had a very unusual relationship with her. She played a very big part of my life in my life during her lifetime when I was here. She played a very big part.
You want to talk a little about it?
Well, there was a period where I would sit with her on the veranda on Sundays after everyone left in the evening and spend about an hour with her each Sunday alone. And she would have ready, and I was expected to be there. She would have ready stories about, oh, like old ashram gossip things, or she would have something made, have had something made for me to taste that she wanted me to learn. Or just news of the day. It was a magical time in my life, because I can remember Sunday afternoons getting ready to go out there, and some weeks I would, you know, you're just fed up with yourself. I felt, how can I face this glorious being? You know, I'm just such a useless thing. And when I would go, the minute I would see her, everything would vanish except her. There would be nothing except her. And it was quite remarkable. There was also a period of time where she decided that we didn't get enough meat. We didn't get enough meat in our diets out here. So she would have Nadja cook meat for Erica and I and call us to Mirzad to feed us in the back of the kitchen. And it was so rarefied, so incredibly rarefied. I mean, it was, here were these two guys, you know, really idiots, who the queen of the universe was taking interest in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Alan, could you please tell us something about Muhammad the Mast and your and Eriko's experiences with him?
Yes,
including the flower language?
Erica was his primary caregiver, but I was number two. So whenever Erica was away, I bathed him. I did many. There was a long period of time, even when Erica was here, where I was. My nickname was Bocha Chamalik.
What?
Bocha Chamalik,
King of ass.
the king of the, because I was the only person he would let wash his bottom when he went to the when he took a crap.
Hey, talking about that, can you narrate this thing about he asking to have his bum washed for several times when there were bomb blasts in Bombay?
That's something I think that Erico knew about. I wasn't aware of that. Erico probably knew, he was probably the one doing that. But
I see.
it was about a 3-year period where I did that only. And then then it moved into another time where, you know, it would change from time to time.
Oh,
I was not only Bocha Chamalik, I was Kata Chamalik, because he wanted me to change his bed for him. I was Chesmawala. I had many nicknames with Muhammad. He could speak very Chutia, you know, Sala. Not so much for me. It was very interesting that once he knew you, you know, it was people we became aware of the fact that if he did that, when he would lose his temper with people, it was because they were interrupting him in his work, in his experience. They were interrupting him. And because once I remember coming into the hall and saying something, and he shouted it, because he rarely did. And I backed out, and about 15 minutes later, he sent a servant to call me. And I came in and he said, Mafi, Mafi, I didn't realize it was you. So it was very, it was amazing to experience that with him. He made it perfectly clear on several occasions that he knew everything I was thinking, which was not always comfortable. But he knew everything. He knew everything. In my mind, it was an open book to him.
He used to call me Madrasi Chammar. I don't know why. He used to call me that. Ja salam Madrasi Chammar ja. That's what he told me.
To my father,
Aji?
No, he had,
Mahar. That is still worse.
no, he would. He had his little. He had his what would I call it? His glossary, of abuses, but it was usually people who, as I said, it was often people would be interrupting him or something like that, because he really didn't do that. If he knew you, I always felt like he was the most Jalali must that the Mandalay ever had to deal with, and yet with us, with Eric, my Heather, myself, Janet, and Ted, even he was like our great uncle. You know, he was. It was wonderful to be with him. You know, that you felt like family. He felt like family. I've often thought how remarkable to have a fifth plane must as a friend.
Yeah, Alan, sorry. There's one area of Samadhi which is not recorded at all, and that is the marble going into the Samadhi, which I think was a tremendous effort, tremendous challenge, only men muscles and ropes. Were you present there, and can you please share a few thoughts on that if you saw it?
I was not present, but Padre described it to us, to Eric and Ted and I. What Padre did was he made a wooden trough. Of course, the marble came from Italy. Rano had picked it out and had it prepared in Italy on her way back from the States after Baba dropped the body. And it arrived at Mehrabad and it was kept on the Sabha Mandap. And Padre made like a little trough, the width of the marble, the thickness of the marble. And he had all these workers with him, and in that trough, I think they soaked up the trough or something like that. They had, put soap and water in it, so it was slippery. And they moved the marble because, marble is unbelievably dense and very heavy. So by using that trough, they maneuvered it into the Samadhi and then carefully placed it. And they had to place it really, it was a big deal because their fingers were under it. And they had how to get everyone's fingers out and still have it exactly positioned as it should be. But that's how he did it. So he brought it from the Sabha Mandap, was delivered by a truck to the Sabha Mandap, and he brought it from there in a trough, all the way through the door of the Samadhi and into position. That's what I recall him telling us. Jimmy, did that answer your question?
Jimmy?
Yes, it does. It does. Alan, tell us about a few guys who came in early in the 70s, like Philip and the other guys who came early.
What to say? I mean, my generation, I was born in 1938, and that generation of many of us all came to Baba during his last seclusion. All of us from the States, most of us came to Baba during that his last seclusion. So that's, and many came during those last 3 months of his life, before he dropped the body. So what can I say about it? I've often thought one of the things that is a testimony to him being God, if he need, which he doesn't need it, is that the variety of people, the variety of the kinds of people is unlimited with him. You see people from all interests and all walks of life, and all revering him as God. And that alone would say, you know, there wasn't a particular kind of person or that was drawn to him. It was all kinds of people across the board. So all of us that came to him during that time, we were all ready to know love. We were all ready to get away from the sterility of the Christian faith, which most of us had been raised in, to enter into the real relationship with the divine beloved, to get out of the living room and into the bedroom, to find true intimacy with him. And he was more than prepared to be there. Anything else?
Yeah, I believe Erico was an extremely intelligent man, and you were very close to him.
Erico was, he had 180 plus IQ, let's say that. He would read texts, treatises by Ramanujan on mathematics. He read them like I read detective novels. You know, he periodically tried to talk to you about me about it. It was like, wait a minute, this is not my Windows 6. This is not my my genre. But he was absolutely brilliant at anything. He was quite remarkable. I would say he was a man with a great heart and a great mind.
A great mathematician too. He gave Ted the formula for the tower thing.
Yes, the Memorial Tower.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical equation
You're right.
called Gabriel's horn,
Yeah.
where two lines approach each other but never touch.
What's that? Two eyes?
Two lines approach each other but never intersect or touch.
Oh. Oh. What about your interactions with Airaj? Any?
Well, during that time that I would spend an hour with Mara on the porch. Very often when I would leave her, the women would come and I would leave her. I would go to the other side and Erich would call me into his room. And we would sit for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And he would be quizzing me about news of what was going on at Marabad. And he was, that was also quite wonderful. It was like, it was like getting tutored. He was, his remarkable sensibility about everything, his remarkable perspective on everything was always. There was an instance in the early years of all of us living here when I first started the Savage's Kitchen, where everyone had become discontent and no one liked the food, and everyone was angry, and I was doing my best, I felt, and all these arguments were taking place, and I remember one morning I was making myself some breakfast in the kitchen, and I was weeping because I just said, Baba, I don't know what to do. I've done everything I can do. I can think of to do. I don't know what to do. And I felt, I'm not someone who would run to the Mandali for advice or have questions, things like that. I always felt pretty fulfilled with Baba in myself. But on that occasion, standing there weeping, I felt Baba within me say, go to Erich. That's what he's there for. Go to Erich and tell him. So I wrote a chit and had it sent by bicycle into town to the trust office. Went by bicycle from the trust office to Marazad, to Erich, that I wanted to meet him about problems with the kitchen. And Erich immediately wrote a response and had a guy on a bicycle bring it all the way to Mehrabad immediately. So that I should come out the next day and we would meet and talk about this. So the next day I got myself ready to go out to Mehrabad. And I had permission from Padre to use Padre's motorcycle. So, but I always had to take his permission to use it and tell him where I was going. So I came around and when I was about to do that, I was coming around to speak to Padre. I thought, why don't you ask Padre tell him about the problems in the kitchen. And so I went up to Padre and I said, I did. I asked him, I said, what do you think? He said, well, it's a very simple thing, mister. You do these three things. Everybody, and I'm not going to tell you what the three things were, but there were three things. And the first two things he told me made perfect sense to me, but the third, I thought, what is the deal with this? And anyway, then I took the motorcycle, rode into town, went through town, went to Merazad, got there, and Erich called me into his room. We sat down and I told him about all the problems. And Erich said, well, there are three things you need to do. He said, and he told me these three things. And I'm listening to this, and they were, not only were they the same three things that Padre had said, but they were told me in the same order.
Wow.
And then he said, I'm going to dictate something to you to read to all the participants in the Savage's Kitchen when you go back, but you must say that you've written it. You cannot tell them that I've dictated it, that you've taken my dictation. You have to tell them you wrote it yourself. So I did that, and it was all kind of amazing. And then I got back on the bike and rode back, and when I was passing through town, I stopped at the trust office in town, and I thought, well, I'll ask Bao. Let's see what Bao is. I'm going to do what Erich says, but let me just see what Bao says. So he was sitting in Firstly at that time, and I went in and I sat down and I said, Bao, there's all these issues and problems in the kitchen. And he said, well, there's three things you need to do. He said, and he gave me these things, the same three things in the same order.
Wow.
So three more different Mandali members you couldn't have had. And they all gave me exactly the same response. The first one was, everyone pays the same amount of money no matter how much they eat or how many meals they take. You give the money into Baba's hand for your support. You're not buying food.
Mm.
He said, secondly, no special meals. No specials, and nothing special, just simple food to sustain you. And the third thing was, everybody buys their own fruit. The kitchen does not supply fruit. That was the one I thought was unusual. But obviously something had happened in the ashram with fruit sometime, and because they all knew it. And I went back and I did exactly what Eric said. I read this statement, which I don't remember and which got lost, unfortunately. And instituted those three policies, and everything ran smooth for about 4 or 5 years, and then it started to decay again. Things started to get a little derailed, but food is a very personal thing, So and anyway, that was kind of an amazing experience with all the three Mandali and the Savage's Kitchen. And obviously something had happened in Baba's time that they all knew exactly what to do.
Funny thing to ask, but how many snakes have you killed so far?
Oh, mostly I've killed cobras. I've killed maybe four or five.
Because I
Big-
remember you killing one in the MPC, in the Pilgrim Center once.
Right, there was a 10-footer.
Ah,
He was aggressive. You know, the cobras can be aggressive. Most snakes want to get away from you. You're not food for them. They don't care about you, but the cobra is different. So it was on the outside veranda on the men's side. I was cooking. I was actually in the kitchen cooking myself. And the watchman came and said, "Oh, there's this cobra on the veranda." I said, "Oh, go deal with it." He said, "No, we're all afraid. We're all afraid." I said, "Okay." So I grab a bamboo stick and I walk out the back door of the kitchen and come around to the back side of the veranda. And there it was, about to enter where the single rooms were on the side of the building. And when the minute I come up on the veranda, it turns around and starts coming toward me, hissing and striking at the air. And I said, "Okay, mister, you're going to find out why I'm more evolved." Because Padre had taught us all you have to do is hit the snake anywhere in the middle of its body and break its back, and then it can't travel. And then you just work your way up to the head and make the head chutney. So that's what I did. And meanwhile, the boys who worked in the kitchen were all shocked. They immediately burnt the snake up because they said that the mate would be around somewhere and would come after me. And I think a few days later, someone did kill another snake or another cobra, but this one was pretty dramatic, coming down the veranda, hissing and striking. Okay, mister, who's more evolved? Let's find out.
May I ask a question? Hello,
Sure.
Alan. I don't have I'm afraid I can't reference what I'm about to say exactly, but did not Baba once say that all snakes should be killed just for their advancement?
That's correct. That's correct.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That he said that the soul in a snake cannot evolve without being killed by the hand of a man.
So
Yeah.
this includes even the harmless snakes?
Yes.
Alan, changing gears, I am an absolute fan of your prayer reciting. And I know that, during the day, at least in the olden times, you used to go to the samadhi and recite the prayer loudly on your own. Now,
he'll be doing that today shortly after this program is over. He'll be doing the prayer, Prashant.
I just wanted to know that does he find it mechanical at any point in time, or because that's the problem with me. So just wanted to check with Alan that how many times in a week or in a day he finds it mechanical.
Well, what happened with that was in the first months I lived at Mehrabad, I had for years said the prayers in front of this photograph that Mani had given me in '69 that Baba had touched. I would always say the prayers in front of this photograph before I came here to live. And I was doing it in my room at Lower Mehrabad before, and I felt Baba within me say one day, "Do this at the Samadhi. That's what it's for." So I started doing it at the Samadhi, and someone once asked me, said, "It sounds like you're performing." And I said, "Well, I am." I said, "I don't want to bore him." I said, I want to adore him and praise him and glorify him. And so I have to say that it was never, ever mechanical. There was always a spark in it from him appreciating my effort, always.
The word you was entertaining Baba. You were there to entertain Baba with the prayer.
Well, I was there to
praise Baba.
Praise, glorify, enjoy. No, no, definitely. No, so the prayer was never mechanical. And what was great, now this is kind of a secret, but it doesn't matter now. I stopped doing it during the lockdown. And because my Parkinson's is getting worse, my speech is a little bit affected. And I feel concerned about not doing it publicly the best I can, although I'm still doing it at Amartisi's. But the Parkinson's has had an effect on that. So anyway, what was I going to say? I now say the prayers at home in front of that same old picture that Bon Mani had given me. And then I go to the Samadhi and I bow down every day. But it's, I just think, I think he gave these prayers to us. It behooves us to glorify, to use them, to take advantage of the opportunity to glorify him, to enter into that kind of intercourse with him. It was never mechanical, Prashant, never.
Thanks, Helen. I loved the way you explained it. Thanks a lot.
And, oh, this is the thing that was secret. Mani gave me permission to say the prayers at the Samadhi anytime I wanted to. So everyone knew that. And the reason she did, it was way back in the early part of the 80s when I was doing all the cooking at the NPR personally. Because she thought I was always in the kitchen at Aarti time and I wouldn't be able to attend Aarti. So she gave me permission, but the truth was, I loved saying it on my own and I didn't like going to Aarti. So Baba got me permission in a sneaky way.
Mm.
For me, Aarti was I always felt like it was too social. I felt when I go to somebody, it's between here, it's Baba and myself.
Mm.
I don't want to socialize there. It's not, I have everywhere else in the world to socialize. I don't want to socialize there. Dopamine.
Anybody else has any questions?
Yes, I do. I do have a question. The subject of being alone and being quiet and being with your beloved one-on-one versus being in a group that are trying to attain that same end. That I totally agree. Sometimes I felt that it was that I'm reticent as as a rule. So maybe I was saying, oh, maybe I should push myself to be more, to be more sociable. I don't know what I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but I'm agreeing with you about the solitude part of it. The one-on-one part of it.
Well,
Thank you.
It's really the only way that intimacy can occur. Is one-on-one.
Hmm. Anybody else? Any questions? Okay. It's 4 minutes after 7. Alan, do you have any short thing you want to share or before we sign off, or can
I
we?
think I should just say the prayers and that's,
Yeah, that of course. That of course.
I don't have anything in particular. No, nothing in particular.
Okay. So then thank you everybody. And thank you, Baba, first of all, for giving us Alan Ragnar. And now his famous prayer, Jai Baba.
O Pavadigar, the preserver and protector of all, you are without beginning and without end, non-dual, beyond comparison, and none can measure you. You are without color, without expression, without form, and without attributes. You are unlimited and unfathomable, beyond imagination and conception, eternal and imperishable. You are indivisible, and none can see you, but with eyes divine. You always were, you always are, and you always will be. You are everywhere, you are in everything, and you are also beyond everywhere and beyond everything. You are in the firmament and in the depths. You are manifest and unmanifest, on all planes and beyond all planes. You are in the three worlds and also beyond the three worlds. You are imperceptible and independent. You are the creator, the Lord of lords, the knower of all minds and hearts. You are omnipotent and omnipresent. You are knowledge, infinite, power, infinite, and bliss, infinite. You are the ocean of knowledge, all-knowing, infinitely knowing, the knower of the past, the present, and the future. And you are knowledge itself. You are all merciful and eternally benevolent. You are the soul of souls, the one with infinite attributes. You are the Trinity of truth, knowledge, and bliss. You are the source of truth, the ocean of love. You are the ancient one, the highest of the high. You are Prabhu and Parmeshwar. You are the beyond God and the beyond God also. You are Parabrahma, Allah, Allahi, Yazdan, Ahura Mazda, and God the Beloved. You are named Izad, the only one worthy of worship. Jai Baba. We repent, O God, most merciful, for all our sins, for every thought that was false or unjust or unclean, for every word spoken that ought not to have been spoken, for every deed done that ought not to have been done. We repent for every deed and word and thought inspired by selfishness, and for every deed and word and thought inspired by hatred. We repent most especially for every lustful thought and every lustful action, for every lie, for all hypocrisy, for every promise given but not fulfilled, and for all slander and backbiting. Most especially also, we repent for every action that has brought ruin to others, for every word and deed that has given others pain, and for every wish that pain should befall others. In your unbounded mercy, we ask you to forgive us, O God, for all these sins committed by us, and to forgive us for our constant failures to think and speak and act according to your will. Amen. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more and more and more and still yet more till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold fast to Baba's Daman to the very end. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
बुझावे नार जहलतनी कर कुद रत्ने फरमातु छलागी आश भक्तों ने के बख्शे नूरे ईमातु आयामुर शाद मेहर बाबा चरण पर तुझ न दरिए सर खुदाना जात थी वहाँ के फतही बे थो मेहरबान तुझे मालिक हकीकतनो तू आशे बीने आरिफ भी तुझे दरी या है वहदत मारिफतनो हो ही तूफान तू हमोर रफ मेहर साले बख्शे ज्ञान इज़दनो के तू पर मात्मा ज्ञानी छने मुख तारे इरफातु खुदाना प्रेमनो प्यालो पिलावे मस्त हमने कर छे तुझ पर जान सद के किया पी दे पयमा तू हमारी नाव भर दरिए तरावे तो हमें तरिए हमारा ना खुदा है मेहर बाबा छनिगे बातू हमारा ना खुदा है मेहर बाबा छनिगे बातू बुझावे नार सहलतनी कर कुद रत्ने फरमातू छलागी आश भक्तों ने के बख्शे नूरे ईमातू अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय।
हुआ लहर से ही है जिसकी सृष्टि का निर्माण उसकी दैवी अनंतता का कैसे हो अनुमान। आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन नमो ब्रह्मा आओ मेहर प्रभु आरती अपनावो मेहर प्रभु आरती अपनाओ। प्रेम दीप में ही ये जलाऊ प्रेम दीप में ही ये जलाऊ निबिड़ अंधेरा मिटता पाऊ निबिड़ अंधेरा मिटता पाऊ अपना सब कुछ तुम्हें चढ़ाऊ अपना सब कुछ तुम्हें चढ़ाऊ तुम मुझको सरसाओ मेहर प्रभु आरती अपनावो मेहर प्रभु आरती अपनावो। जीवन की हर सांस हमारी जीवन की हर सास हमारी, बन जाए प्रभु गति तुम्हारी, बन जाए प्रभु गति तुम्हारी। हे करुणा कर लीलाधारी, है करुणा कर लीलाधारी। तुम करुणा बरसाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ। बने आरती जीवन मेरा, बने आरती जीवन मेरा। आदि अंत का लय हो घेरा, आदि अंत का लय हो घेरा। खुले नयन और दिखे सवेरा, खुले नयन और दिखे सवेरा। तुम मुझ में छा जाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ। आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन, आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन। नमो ब्रह्मा आओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ। आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन, आदि सचेतन शांति निकेतन। नमो ब्रह्मा आओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ मेहर प्रभु, आरती अपनाओ। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय, अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय, अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। प्रियतम अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय।
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Alan, for taking time out for us. Prashant, are you around still? Are you there? Prashant, are you there? Okay, doesn't matter. Let's all depart now. Take Baba with us and keep him with us till we meet again next Thursday. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Jai Baba.